Unbelievable footage just in. The Euphrates River has dried up, revealing something absolutely terrifying lurking beneath the surface. You won't believe your eyes when you see what's been hiding there all this time. So prepare yourself for the shock of a lifetime. The Euphrates is the westernmost of the region's two major rivers, which used to be called Mesopotamia. The river runs for 1,730 kilometers, making it the longest in southern Asia. The Euphrates River starts in the Armenian Mountains of eastern Turkey, where the Karasu and Murat rivers meet. The river flows through the Taurus Mountains before entering Syria and Iraq and flowing into the Persian Gulf. The Khabur and Balikh Rivers are the only other tributaries that feed into the Euphrates. The upper sections of the river are extremely hot and dry, whilst the lower courses give lush floodplains used for farming items such as papyrus to the nearby villages. For the most part, the river is extremely shallow and slow-moving. The river has been given numerous names by the various cultures who have inhabited it. The Sumerians were the first to develop the river, which they named Id-Ugina, or Blue River. Puratu was named by later peoples such as the Babylonians and Assyrians. The river was named Ufratu by the Persians, which means easy to cross. Eventually, the Kurdish may have called the river Fe'erahat, which means broad flowing water. All these accounts either describe the physical look of the river or how it was used at the time. Revelation chapter 16 verse 12. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river, the Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way would be prepared for the kings from the east. Revelation chapter 9 verse 14. One saying to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, "Release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." Genesis chapter 15 verse 18. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, "To your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates." Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 7. Turn and set your journey, and go to the hill country of the Amorites, and to all their neighbors in the Arabah, in the hill country, and in the lowland, and in Negev, and by the seacoast, the land of the Canaanites and Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. 2 Kings chapter 23 verse 29. In his days Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria, to the river Euphrates. And King Josiah went to meet him, and when Pharaoh Necho saw him, he killed him at Megiddo. 2 Chronicles chapter 35 verse 20. After all this, when Josiah had set the temple in order, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to make war at Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Josiah went out to engage him. Isaiah chapter 11 verse 15. And the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt, and he will wave his hand over the river with his scorching wind, and he will strike it into 7 streams, and make men walk over dry shod. Jeremiah chapter 51 verse 63 to 64. And as soon as you finish reading this scroll, you will tie a stone to it and throw it into the middle of the Euphrates, and say, "Just so shall Babylon sink down and not rise again because of the calamity that I am going to bring upon her, and they will become exhausted." Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. According to the Bible, when the Euphrates River runs dry, great things are on the horizon, possibly even the second coming of Jesus Christ and the rapture. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the large river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. Revelation chapter 16 verse 12. says, as we mentioned earlier in this video. So, not to be dramatic, but it appears that the moment has come. The Euphrates, together with the Tigris, cuts through modern-day Syria and Iraq before draining into the Persian Gulf. For thousands of years, the twin rivers have supported rural settlements and majestic cities in Mesopotamia, which is regarded as the birthplace of some of the world's first civilizations. Nonetheless, it has been clear for several decades that the Tigris-Euphrates River system is drying up. A government assessment issued in 2021 stated that due to diminishing water levels and droughts caused by climate change, the rivers could run dry by 2020. The Tigris and Euphrates River basins have lost 144 cubic kilometers, 34 cubic miles, of fresh water since 2003. According to photos acquired by NASA's Twin Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment GRACE satellites in 2013. In a statement, Jay Famiglietti, principal investigator of the study and a hydrologist and professor at UC Irvine, said, "GRACE data show an alarming rate of decrease in total water storage in the Tigris and Euphrates River basins, which currently have the second fastest rate of groundwater storage loss on Earth after India. The pace was especially dramatic following the 2007 drought." Famiglietti observed, "Yet, demand for fresh water continues to climb and the region does not coordinate its water management due to differing interpretations of international regulations. The strain is already visible, but a complete collapse of the river system would be disastrous for the region. The Tigris-Euphrates River provides water to millions of people in Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. When the rivers begin to struggle, international battles over water availability are already escalating. These considerations have also impeded governments from reaching an effective solution to the situation. These countries, which are thirsty for water, may also be on the verge of a public health crisis. A recent investigation published in the British medical journal BMJ revealed how a slew of health emergencies are brewing in Iraq as people struggle to obtain safe drinking water. Diarrhea, chickenpox, measles, typhoid fever, and cholera are already spreading across Iraq as a result of the water crisis. Nasir Bakar, climate activist and field coordinator of Tigris River Protectors Organization in Iraq, told the BMJ, "Although the Bible's prophecies about the fate of the Euphrates should be taken with a grain of salt, perhaps its prediction of massive change wasn't so far off." So is it true that drying up may reveal the bound angles? And as we all know in Revelation 9, why are there 4 angels bound in the Euphrates? To understand why they were bound and imprisoned beneath the Euphrates, you must look outside of the canonical books and to a book that was removed from the canon, but one that several of the canonical books frequently refer to, which is the Book of Enoch, which is 4 books in one, and more specifically, 2nd Enoch chapter 10. It clarifies the following. "Then the Lord said to Michael, 'Go, bind Semjaza and his friends who have coupled with women and polluted themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And after their sons have slaughtered one another, and they have seen the destruction of their ones, bind them fast in the valleys of the ground for 70 generations, until the day of their judgment and completion, until the judgment of that is forever and ever is finished.'" Note that it does not specifically say, "Bind them and put them under the Euphrates River," but rather, "valleys of the earth." However, when we look at the canonical books of Jude, 2nd Peter, and the book of Revelations, and notice the pattern of the mention of 4 angels being bound and held until the day of judgment and consummation, we see parallels of this story and can infer that the characters are one in the same. Let us first consider Revelations chapter 9, verse 13 to 15. The sixth angel then sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar before God, saying, "Loose the four angels who are bound in the big river Euphrates," said the sixth angel with the trumpet. And the four angels were released, who had been prepared for an hour, a day, a month, and a year to murder the third portion of mankind. The fact that they are under the Euphrates is mentioned in the following verse is from Jude chapter 1 verse 6. And the angels who did not keep their first estate, but left their own home, he has reserved in everlasting chains beneath darkness until the great day of judgment. Once again, angels are imprisoned in a dark location, awaiting judgment. Finally, there is 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. Because if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but sent them down to hell and bound them in shackles of darkness to be reserved for judgment. Again, we see some angels committing sin and being chained in a dark area. When we connect all three scriptures to Genesis chapter 6, we begin to understand the why, as well as a much more in-depth understanding of how this tale happened. That the sons of God beheld the fairness of the daughters of men and took them brides from all that they selected. And the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always contend with man, for he too is flesh, but his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in those days, and after that, when the sons of God married the daughters of men and bore offspring to them, the same became powerful men of old, men of renown." So what do you guys think? Is this the rapture sign? Do let us know your thoughts in the comment section below.